Good evening, everyone. I am Pranjal Jain. I am a second-year PhD researcher from Swansea University. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the Prelude event of Off the Canvas, brought to you by HCIPAI and IndiaHCI 2024 in collaboration with ACM SIGCHI Chapters. Today, we embark on a journey that shifts our focus from AI-centric approaches to a future where human creativity leads the way. Moving on to the next slide. You must be wondering, what does off the canvas mean? So off the canvas, IndiaHCI Prelude symbolizes a shift from relying solely on AI, emphasizing its role as a tool rather than the central focus. Here, off denotes moving away from the AI-centric methods and celebrating the power of human creativity. Moving on to next slide. This particular off the canvas has been set up by HCIPAI, and this is in precedence to the symposium which will be organized in August. For that particular event, we will be discussing that at the end of the presentation. Let's move. Here are the program committee coordinators for this. I would love to introduce Rohan Sandeep and Pavani and Saikat to come and talk about themselves briefly here. Rohan, you are muted.
Yeah, thanks, Pranjal. It has been a wonderful time organizing this event, working with Pavani, with Saikat, Richa, Pranjal, and so many others who are not listed on this slide at this moment. It was great conceptualizing this, thinking about it, and coming forward. I hope all of you have a wonderful time today, listening to our distinguished speakers, and also towards the event that's going to happen in VIT as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pavni. I'm a third-year student in MIT Pune, and currently I'm doing my bachelor's in UX design. And it was wonderful working with everybody on this event. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to the speakers to join our invitations. I'm Saikat. I'm second year master student in IDC, IIT Bombay, and I'm an interaction design student. So, yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, program coordinators. It was a wonderful journey to bring all the speakers together and put this event. Let's move on to the next slide. As mentioned earlier, this particular event is in collaboration with the ACM SIGCHI. ACM SIGCHI is an international society for professional academics and students interested in the larger domain of human-computer interaction. It provides a unique platform for exchange of ideas, knowledge, and in particular, we are collaborating with 3 ACM SIGCHI chapters in India: MIT ID, IIT Bombay, and Srishti SIGCHI. We will talk about more about this collaboration at the end of the event. Let's move on to next slide. Here are the names mentioned of all the effort taken by the program committee. We will come to this organizing committee at the end and will mention everyone's effort. So let's move on to the next slide. Yes. Now I would like to introduce Richa Mishra from HCIPAI and IndiaHCI to talk more about this initiative. And she is a director. She is one of the director at HCIPAI who brought this off the canvas organizing committee and make this thing happen today. Over to you, Richa.
Thanks, Pranjal. A warm welcome to all of you. Many thanks to all the speakers for taking out time and coming for this event. So I would like to speak a little bit about HCIPAI. So HCIPAI is basically a non-profit organization, which is a community representing academicians and professionals who work largely in the area of India HCI. And rather HCI. HCIPAI is basically known to organize a series of events under India HCI. And one of the most popular event is India HCI conference, which is an exclusive and enriching conference for people and HCI enthusiasts working in the area of HCI. We have been organizing almost 14 India HCI conferences annually. And the most interesting part about these conferences is that we move to different geographical locations. We call or invite interested organization and institution to participate and host on these events. So in the past also, we have been organizing a number of conferences, workshops, and symposiums. But this year is very special to us due to following reasons. So we have always got this request from all these HCI enthusiasts, since India HCI conference is such a popular event, that why not have some more events by which we can come together and exchange our ideas. So this year, India HCI has brought a series of events. We kickstarted our event with the first event for virtual workshop paper writing, which was hosted in the month of March. We had an overwhelming response of more than 120 attendees. Today, we are witnessing Prelude of the Canvas event, and I'm sure many more are joining for this. And in the month of August, as Pranjal mentioned, we will have the online event, which is first of its kind, India HCI Symposium, which will be organized and hosted by VIT Vellore. And then maybe the last event for this year would be our most popular event, India HCI Conference. The second most beautiful thing about this year is that for the first time, all the ACM SIGCHI chapters, which are active in India, have come together. They have joined their hands and collaborated with HCIPAI to organize this event of the Canvas. And of course, the third one is we have a lineup of thought-provoking speakers and such a fantabulous audience. So I request all of you to be there with us till the end, because we have our other directors also coming and talking about different events organized by India HCI. Thank you so much. Over to you, Pranjal.
Thank you, Richa. Thank you for giving us an overview. Now, moving on, next, it's my pleasure to introduce Aniruddha Joshi, a founding member of HCIPAI and IndiaHCI.
Yep. Hi. Thanks, Pranjal. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, I'm in a slightly noisy place in a classroom.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, good. So Pavani, can you please switch to the web page? Right. So I'm here today in the role of the director for membership in HCIPI. But before that, hi, Alan. I think I am probably the only person in the call today who remembers that Alan Dix was a keynote speaker in India HCI 2013. So hi, Alan. Welcome back to India HCI community. Nice to have you. Right. I am here actually just to kind of inform people who are here, particularly those who kind of come to India frequently or are located in India, that HCI, Professionals Association of India, is a community-based HCI Professionals Association of India is a community-based organization. So you can become a member of this community. There are many ways of becoming a member. Of course, we have a mailing list of which you can freely become a member. So it's on Google Groups. But what you can see here is our membership page. You can either become as an individual, you can either become an annual member, yearly member, or you can become a life member. And the process of seeing that is listed over there. And Pavani, can you please scroll up a little bit? No, scroll down, I mean, up, down, whatever. So the next thing that I want to show. So this is for the individual members, but we have recently also introduced institutional membership and corporate membership, and we already have our first institutional member in place, and we will soon be getting a second institutional member in place. But so institutional members, it's probably not obvious, but it's for educational institutes and universities or colleges and so on who can become members and get listed there. And corporate members are for companies, startups, large companies, and so on. There are several very interesting member benefits that I want to just highlight. I don't want to give a long speech here because I know everybody is keen to start listening to the speakers, invited speakers, and so I will not be in your way for a long time. But just wanted to highlight that if you become a member, firstly you get to network with other members. There is one big opportunity that we organize just on the night before India HCI. We organize a members dinner at the venue of the conference. We also give you the first opportunity to organize events in your city and at the venue of your choice. You take the lead in organizing it, and we let you propose that. IndiaHCI, as Richa mentioned, is an open event, community event, and we go to different locations each year, and we first ask our members, would anybody like to host the next IndiaHCI? So that is the second benefit. There are some other benefits. You get some discounts for attending events and so on. So please sign up. That's all that I had to say, and please enjoy the event. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Anirudh Joshi, for giving us an overview of the importance of membership and how we can get involved with IndiaHCI and HCIPAI. Now, before we kickstart with Alan to listen his talk, I would like to introduce ask Saikat to come on board. Let's take a moment for a creative exercise. Saikat will take around 1 to 2 minutes to guide us on how to do a sketch note. Over to you, Saikat.
So hi everyone. So this is an activity that we're planning. I'm audible, right?
Yes.
So we know. So recently, sketchnoting has become really popular. So what it actually is, like, we used to doodle it on the margins of our notebooks or the back of the notebooks, and to escape from the boring lectures or whatever classes we were attending, and then that way it would like help us become engrossed in our thoughts and process things properly. So now has become an active mode of note taking, which is widely accepted in formal education as well. So now some of the benefits that are here is like it enhances. I'll just read them aloud. So it enhances memory retention, makes learning more engaging, simplifies complex information, and encourages creativity. So what it primarily does is the act of passive listening. It makes it as an active engagement, an activity with active engagement. So I urge all the listeners to take notes if they can, because we will ask them at the end, like if somebody wants to share their sketch notes, so they can do that. Next slide, I'll show some examples of. So yeah, so there is no right or wrong way to do this. Like you can use colors, no colors, like how many images you want to draw, that is up to you. And it is for your comprehension. So there are no rules as such for this. And like moving on. Yeah. And so this is not something that is done recently. So if we see Leonardo da Vinci's research notes, we can still see that like it looks very close to what we call sketch notes nowadays. So it is an active, like, it is a method that is people have done this. So I urge everyone to do this for this.
So what we would like all the attendees, if you could, we can be an active listener, and active learning can happen on this seminar itself. So everyone can take out their pen and a pencil or a pen, and then start sketching whatever Alan, Fernando, and Nirmesh are going to talk about. And we will try to show each other what we made and make a collage. So this will help us to produce knowledge from the seminar, and it will help us to be more active and engaging. So hopefully, after Fernando's talk, we will like you to share your sketch note. Right, now let's move on to the next slide. Now I would like to introduce this particular event is live streamed and recorded. We request if someone has any problem for this recording, if someone do not want to participate, please let us know in the comments, and we will take care of that. It's now time to introduce our first speaker. We are all, let's welcome Alan Dix, Director of Computational Foundry at Swansea University. Over to you, Khushboo, to introduce Alan.
Hi everyone, I'm Khushboo. I'm a first year interaction design student here at IIT Bombay. I'm also the chair for ACM SIGCHI IIT student chapter, and on behalf of the campus committee, I would like to welcome Alan. Thanks, Alan, for joining us. I would like to briefly introduce you. Alan is renowned for his impactful research in human-computer interaction. His work spans to seminal textbooks, formal methods, mobile interfaces, and addressing biases in machine learning. Elected to the ACM SIGCHI Academy in 2013, he combines academic excellence with practical application, including agriculture technology and educational tools. Known for his eclectic approach, Dix's expertise extends to technical creativity in both academic and real-world context. Alan, we are really excited to have you here, and we all are looking forward for your talk. The floor is all yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, and I will just do the just get my do my share screen. Oh, you've got to. That's fine. So let's try again. Yeah, that's perfect. And in fact, I will. You'll. Oh, no, I was going to pop up. That's right. As mentioned, I have been in India other times as well, but I was back in 2013. Yeah, just after I'd walked around the periphery of Wales, I gave talks. So I just there's the webpage there, still there from then. And I'll now open slides. Oops, which is too early. There we are. So hello everybody. It's great to be with you. Pranjal, could I just or perhaps it's yourself, Kush.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. How long am I supposed? About 40 minutes or so, is it?
No, 20 minutes.
20 minutes. 20 minutes. Okay. I wasn't quite sure. I forgot one of those crucial questions. We'll see. Yeah, I'll stop when I get. So I'll just put my timer on so I don't go on too long. Okay, yes. Anyway, that's me. So that will also help govern how long is it. And I still, after all these years, still don't resume. Okay, yeah. So just to mention, I'm talking from Wales today. Pranjal, and until recently, I was director of the Computational Foundry, but I retired from Swansea at the end of April. I'm still emeritus there, so I have connections. But I also was part-time, and I'm continuing at Cardiff Metropolitan University. So I'm a professor without portfolio there. So I work talking to people across the whole university about anything and everything, which is but today I'm actually speaking from another university. I'm speaking from Aberystwyth University on the west coast of Wales, because I'm going to give a talk later for another AI event, or an AI event here on sort of AI and arts and humanities. So I'm afraid I will leave fairly soon after I finish. Apologies for that now. And there's a picture of Aberystwyth in the Victorian days when some elephants visited. They're not common in the area. I think there was a circus visiting, but it's a very well-known postcard. And there's lots of things I'm not talking about today. So if you glance up at there and think, oh, that's interesting, you can shout at me at some later time, send me a mail and can tell you about it. I particularly won't talk about slow time because that always takes too long. And then a few quick plugs. Yeah, I think quite a lot of you know about the HCI textbook, but in 2021, after a long period, it took ages to do the writing. We have a sort of a book on physical digital design called Touch IT. 2021, everybody was still recovering from COVID, so I think we never really manage to publicize that properly. Labs are things you can play with, statistics, but crucial, I think, for what I was going to talk about now is I'm literally just finished a second edition of a little AI textbook we originally produced in the 1990s, and then has updating thing, which has been quite an interesting experience, and the difference between the way AI was viewed then and now. But I've also got two other AI related books that are due out sometime when I finish writing them, one on AI and HCI and one on AI for social justice, which is particularly to the topic that Pranjal asked me to talk about here. And the other thing I'll just mention is I'm involved in a European project called Tango on synergistic decision making. So, how you design systems where AI and humans really work closely together, as opposed to, either the AI being embedded deeply in the text, but not really being visible, or where the AI just tells you what to do if you're working for Uber or something like that. So that's an ongoing work. But when you look at the press about AI, there's a lot of bad press, isn't there? There's lots of excitement, but also this sense that the world is going to end very soon, or it does very stupid things, and we've seen lots of work on that. And in fact, as mentioned, I mean, I was interested, I don't know if the right word is interested, or realized the importance of this back in the 1990s. And in 1992, wrote about these sort of dangers of social, gender, ethnic bias in black box machine learning algorithms, and thought it was going to be something that happened really soon, but in fact, it took about 25 years. So I was a little bit ahead of the time there. But yeah, now it's obviously really major issues. There's two ways. When I think about AI in society, there's two things you can think about. There's what AI does. You know, there's a bit of AI and it's doing something good or bad. And so AI has to do. But there's also perhaps ultimately more critical is the way that AI is reshaping society. I mean, it's just true of digital technology in general, but AI has sort of almost accelerated this. And I'll just explain what I mean by that latter. So if you look at the car, there's things that cars do. So they give you transport, they possibly give you independence. There's negative things like they can be accidents, people drink and drive and things like that. So you can look at what cars do, and you can look at positive and negative sides, and you can think of ways of trying to amplify the positive and reduce the negative. But also cars have fundamentally changed the nature of society. So if you think about, you know, and I've seen it's different in India than it is in the UK, and it's different in the UK than America. But very often our cities now are defined by cars and lorries and public transport of that kind. In the States, particularly suburban sprawl and just the whole shaping of it. But then you have issues like car poverty, the way that services start to get designed assuming people have transport and a personal transport in the way of cars. And then obviously issues like global warming, the fuel use, the pollution caused, the plastics, the microplastics coming off those tires, even when you've got an electric car. So society is fundamentally changed by the presence of cars. And I have to say, those are two, they interact, but they're two things. And often we focus, when we think of AI, we're focusing on the first of these, what it does, but both are important. So I was going to start on that, what it does, and then I'll move on. I've taken 5 minutes already, move on to this sort of societal shaping. So what AI does. One of the ways we found useful to think about this, so I'm involved, I mean, there's a number of people, but Clara was the sort of driver of this on well, first of all, it's a big project, but it's continuing on thinking about social justice, digital technology, and as I said, at the present, we're writing a book on AI for social justice as well. So the Not Equal project was a project that ran for a few years in the UK that funded micro projects around the way that digital technology interacted with social justice. And one of the ways of thinking about it is with this diagram on the right. And there's sort of broad things around. I've put some broad things around the outside, but I'm going to look at those three major axes and things that you might think about when you think about your own work, or you look at when you see the way that AI and digital technology is used in society. So one of the first sort of very obvious thing is this, looking at avoiding harm. So I mentioned bias. I was very early on, I said back in 1992, writing about the potential for bias, but then asking the question about what might make this less of a problem. And particularly looking at issues of transparency and the way in which AI could be represented. Well, you can think of as explainable AI now. So we can look at negative things and then ask questions about what might, you know, both highlight them and then ask about how we can avoid them. And we can do that at an individual level and also a societal level. So although there's lots of problems with this sort of work on explainable AI, but also debiasing data and things of that sort. So there's sort of, I think that's always the most obvious thing we think of, I think, when we sort of think about societal impacts. And oh yes, just a few examples of the things that go wrong there. Lots of bias examples. I was forgetting I had that slide. And then things I said, I've already said them already. Avoiding harm. And I was going to say one of the issues I wanted to say, but there is a real problem because these people think sometimes if you get rid of the human bias in data sets, all the problems go away, and that's not the case. You know, and there are fundamental things which are correlated in society that we do not want to replicate in our decision making. That's why when we have laws about discrimination, they're not about should we say, the efficiency of choice. It's the fact that we make choices about what we will use to make decisions. They're ethical choices. Neutral is not unbiased. They're different things. You know, being neutral in the sense of just letting the data speak is not the sense, or certainly in a human sense, of doing things that are fair. But it's complicated world. If I move down this picture, you can also ask, you know, if you know, a company approaches you and says, I want to use AI, but I want to use it nicely. So like, say like in Swansea with them, you know, I said, when I had worked, and when Pranjal's still working, we were closely with Starling Bank, who are explicitly looking to ensure that they don't, you know, not to sort of notice after the event, to ensure they build algorithms that are fair from the start. So people who want to do it right, what can we do to help them? There was in COVID, so in when the first lockdown in the UK started in 2020, the decision was made to not have A-level exams, so your 18-year-old leaving school exams, which then was going to cause a problem for, obviously, for universities, for employers in general, particularly universities, because you base your recruitment on that. So there were there was things you could do, and the teachers always predict grades. And the Ofqual, who were the organisation for the exams, were tasked with creating an algorithm to take teachers' predicted grades, various things, like you knew that some, you know, certain groups were sometimes biased against in terms of predictions when teachers predicted grades. And they created an algorithm, but then when it produced answers in the summer, everybody was really upset. You know, there was people demonstrating about it. But they tried to do the right thing. And if you dig into the details, they really worked hard, and yet they still struggled. So even when you try to do things right. However, their algorithm was scrapped and thrown away, and instead they used teachers' predicted grades instead. So the AI went, and you went for the human answer. Some months later, the people reanalyzed what had happened and discovered, which was not unpredictable itself, that the actual human grades in the end were, shall we say, more unfair than the algorithmic ones. The algorithmic ones were unfair because they didn't have the data to work on, because people weren't sitting the exams. But the human ones were worse. They had worse outcomes. So lots and lots of lessons that you can learn from that. I won't go through them all. As they try to be fair, the data, they struggle to find the data. And I think we're seeing this with large language models are hitting the limits of data. But, you know, data on fairness was very hard to do. And ridiculous expectations that this algorithm, and I said we see this, could magically create fair and individually fair outcomes for people without any base data, without them actually sitting the exams. It's clearly potty, but that's what people expect it to do. But furthermore, for me, what it did is it acted as a mirror on the existing social system. This was a problem because A-level exams matter. The exams at the end of school changed the course of the rest of your life. Right? And if you think about society, you think about social issues, you think about different levels, it's economic, family circumstances, just things like having a bad cold when you're setting your exams. You know, why is it that exams matter so much? So when we see technology in society and we see bad things, actually sometimes I look back and say, perhaps the bad things were there. And for me, the issue that it matters so much what your exams are at 18. And I think I'm right in saying that matters more in India than it does even in Britain, but it matters a lot in Britain. That, for me, really is the big problem. It's not what getting those exam results right. It's the fact that they matter so much in the first place. There is no coming back from getting poor results in those exams. That is fundamentally worrying about society. And then there's things, you know, sometimes we can try and just do things that sort of positively change things for the better. So can we use AI and can we use technology in ways that really improve things? Oh, I haven't got an example. Actually, so things, actually, I realized the example there I got rid of for various reasons, but things like, you know, maybe you might try and use AI to help an NGO or to help people find resources. We were talking here earlier about plotting cycle routes that were good for different people of different abilities, that worked for different age groups and things like that, and whether you could use AI to help do that sort of planning. So can you use it in very positive ways as well? And then, yes, and I have got my, I think, I hope I'm not speaking too fast, but I think I've got my timing right. So I've still got plenty of time to talk about this. So now we're going to go on to how AI shapes society. So there's things we can do to look at this and with our human-centered hat on, say, how can we, do AI right? But as that there's these more fundamental things, that the very existence of the way AI is changing the society we're in. And that isn't outside of the control of us as individuals or countries, but is difficult. And it's got it poses fundamental questions for democracy, for fairness in society. So why is it that AI has become so prominent now, right? Well, some of you know the idea of the AI winter. So I was talking about writing that first edition of textbook in the early 1990s, but just actually, it was just after when AI dipped. There was this great expectation of AI, and it dipped. And there's this idea of these AI winters and sort of times when everybody's excited and times when it's not. I'm going to zoom into the bit that's sort of, shall we say, more recent from the 1990s on. And let's have a quick peek at the technology. So one of the reasons for the peak in the early 1990s was early neural networks. So the fundamental, the more logic-based AI had been going tootling on for a lot of years. But it was early neural networks, I think, really started to get people excited. And there was a lot of overhype, and then it went down. But in between, during this AI winter, when people weren't doing AI, or certainly the researchers all would say, oh, nobody cares about AI anymore. There were things like, if you looked at the web search, think about Google PageRank, was a clever technology. If you looked at it, you might say it was almost intelligent in the way it found things. Recommender systems like Amazon and that for book recommendations, music recommendations, starting to use big data in order to do stuff. And then things like MapReduce at a technical level that we use to implement these. Then you got the things, I think, into the sort of mid-2010s, you started got deep neural networks, and this is what kickstarted the recent exponential growth in AI, and particularly things like AlphaGo, and obviously now large language models, ChatGPT. But that bit in the middle is quite interesting because deep neural networks, I'm not sure if the next slide says this, but in case it won't, I won't move on. Deep neural networks are possible because of big data and big computation. In fact, I'm sure it does say that, which were created. So during this commercial period, during those 2000s to 2010, you had a big growth in the tech companies, particularly Google, but others as well. And it was creating big data centers and big data analysis. So you had large amounts of data being gathered, and you had large computational centers. And that was what was emerging from a commercial driver rather than a research driver in that period. And it's those which enabled deep neural networks to run. You needed the data and large language models after that. You needed data and you needed computation. And they became possible through commercial. So the driver was not a technical breakthrough, although there have been technical breakthroughs, but it wasn't the technical breakthrough. It was the data volume and the computational volume. It's a volume-based thing that kick-started the current AI revolution. And that's really crucial because where is that volume of data? It came, I'm re-saying what's said there. But it came from commercial interests. The commercial data centers gave rise to what has made the new AI possible. So it's big data, but it's big computation, but that came from and is to a large extent owned by big business. So the nature of AI is fundamentally tied to large high-tech business. Now that, that can be positive or negative, but that is a fundamental thing. So this is a change in society. What was it? Yes, it's not in one sense, it's not a fundamentally democratic technology. And now I am getting close to time, so I think, yeah, I'm going to skip. So, yeah, I'll skip this little bit. Yeah, I will mention this. So going back even before AI, countries usually have rules to manage monopolies. So if somebody has all of the iron ore, then they can charge what they like for it. And usually most countries have ways of managing that and trying to prevent people buying up all of the commodity so that they can control it like that. However, what was realized, and this is back in the 2000s, was realized that, actually before that, even earlier than that, was that in the digital sphere, often monopolies happen through network effects. So if I have Word and I'm using Word and Pranjal and I want to collaborate, then it becomes more valuable for Pranjal to use Word rather than perhaps Pages on a Macintosh. Right. So the value of Word versus Pages is changed for Pranjal because of my choices, and vice versa. And what that leads to is a tendency for people to use the same types of things. There's a tie-in effect that causes growth of industries, not because they bought up all of the other industries, but because of this positive feedback effect. Emergent monopolies happen almost as an accident of big technology. And that's not because the companies are being nasty and buying everything. It just happens. They can then exploit that. But so again, the nature of digital technology changes the nature of economics fundamentally. And crucially, it breaks market economics. And that's digital technology before AI, and AI makes this worse. And that is fundamental. That has driven society for probably 150 to 200 years. And the belief that, market economics is not perfect, but it's not done too badly. And that is broken. It's fundamentally broken by the digital world. And that is, again, for good or ill, and you can sort out the relevant repercussions, but it is changed. We are living in a changed world. I won't go on to peacock tails. That's another thing. And well, I will mention, because I don't think I'll need to say much, as well, if we think about the social costs, the way in which this volume-based AI is moving is creating this financial cost, but there's also huge environmental costs involved in that. Again, I'll skip the details of that. And then finally, crucially, who can afford to use the new AI, not the old AI of rule-based things, but the big AI of deep neural networks. Now, there are ways around this and other things, but in the end, it tends to be big countries and big companies. And in fact, this is a quote from about 10 years ago. This is not even recent, talking about open data. And this is before large language models and that. And somebody from Gartner Group, and he said, I don't know if any public sector, he's not talking about individuals, he's not talking about NGOs, and he's not talking about small communities, he's talking about public sector countries. I don't know if any public sector has necessarily cracked the nut on attracting the right skills and capabilities. The commercial sector has, because they've got the dollars to spend. And that's just talking about the exploitation of open data. 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, right? And if you think about large language models and the way that depends on data now, and who can exploit that, that is even true today. So there's really crucial questions driving it. So these are perhaps more societal level than we deal with in HCI often. I said this is all before big data. There are signs of hope, so some of the, and that wasn't Google, that was Meta. I need to correct that slide. I know. I wish when Meta did Llama, it says that Meta says that. So there have been these movements to try and make large language models more accessible, to make and to sort of redesign AI. But at the moment, the thing that's driven the growth has been volume. It's all been about volume. I said these are other technologies to help deal with it. And this has an impact. If we're not careful, it will increase the divisions in society. Again, these have been happening through digital technology for a long time. Again, there are signs of hope. So we can look at particularly generative AI and think about the way that might help personalized tuition. I've got people actually in the group in the place I'm at today talking about Welsh, it's a minority language. India has, I don't know how many languages, so it could flatten those and destroy them completely, or there is the possibility to use some of these generative models to actually amplify the small voices. So both are possible. I think the immortalization, the flattening out is the thing that will likely happen unless we were to do the opposite. And obviously there's accessibility things like, actually alt tags I think are probably redundant, because the thing that you'd write in alt tag is exactly what AI is good at describing, as in not what this is about as a diagram, that's what you put in the caption, but what you can see in front of you. So there's things that you can do. So I'm sure screen readers, if they're not used, I'm sure they're using this already. But also you can start to think about things like neurodiversity, which we don't cover very well in terms of our accessibility. And I think an AI will be probably better at trying to understand what a piece of text is like if you have a different way of thinking than we are. We are really struggle to think, to understand that people think differently to ourselves. And yeah, so lots of stuff there. So in summary, AI and digital, it's changing society and undermines market economics, which changes the world, and can also entrench power and disenfranchise the poor. So there's real potential problems there. But there are signs of hope, and I think there are things that we could then start to think about how we can encourage. And there's some of the very highly technical, like this sort of lower footprint ways of doing AI, but also thinking about inequalities and can we use this in positive ways to encourage it. Okay, and that's it then. Yay, lots of challenges. Oh, and yeah, what will you do? I think that's quite an important thing. How was that, Pranjal?
Perfect. Thanks, Alan, for your insightful talk. We will now have the floor open for our audience. Feel free to ask your questions in the chat, or if you want to come and ask. We have only 5 minutes for the Q&A instead of the 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
sorry, I was a bit longer.
No worries.
I'll stop the share too, so I can see people.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So thank you for a wonderful talk. And actually, you said many things that actually I have been also getting a feeling of. One of the things that, I am an academic, and so there are two things that I like to do. I like teaching, I like research. I don't want to do anything else at all whatsoever. So, but I haven't found any AI tools, or I haven't even found anybody working on AI tools that will help people like me, and that sort of to generalize from that small point to a bigger point, which is that somehow it has become so. Not only, I mean, you asked many very pertinent questions, and I just wanted to add to them, which is what is it that we put AI to? Okay, so I would like, for example, personally, if you ask me, somebody to take away all my administrative email, or answer all my emails for me. Just look at how I've been doing that previously, right? Or just do the regular stuff that needs to be done and get to me only if there is something very important that I haven't really looked at. But it also, I mean, and who would have done this, say, 10 years ago, this kind of work? So a thought comes to me that maybe somebody would have started with a startup in response to this. But actually, it feels to me, based on also some of the things that you have said today, maybe this even shows that startups are also not going to make it. I mean, we are going to have startups which will put a wrapper around some existing AI tools to do something that those AI tools could possibly do with a wrapper around it. But somebody needed to create some fundamental work in an AI tool and then make a startup around it. That looks like almost impossible amount of resources that these AI tools seem to consume. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, so first thing, there is a lot of work in the education sector, but probably more and I think the more you go down to, say, primary school, secondary school, and that's largely about volume and the way in which the way in which companies interact with schools. So certainly that's true in the UK. So there are things happening there. And one thing I thought for many years, this is not so much about AI, but technology in general, like Minority Report, in the home, technology in the home. And it's always dystopian, and I'm often struggling to think, if I had an IoT connected home, what do I want it to do, and what would I really want to do? So I think we do, and some of that, of course, is until you see the technology, you don't always know. So we have, we know we've got those problems, but I think these questions actually about what would actually improve the lives of people for AI to do is the sort of question we can pose that as a question to ourselves. We can do that, these sort of fora, and rather than just saying, leaving it to the technology to do. So I mean, in one sense, this is standard human-centered design, but actually perhaps not, because I think what we more commonly do within a sort of HCI framework is do that, but perhaps at a more micro level, at the level of when we know we've got a need, how to tie it up. But really, actually, fundamentally, we have to look forward to what's possible a little over the horizon. But actually saying, so for instance, yeah, I mean, if I imagine a care worker, somebody who's looking, who's working, perhaps going to people's homes and helping them with meals and that kind of stuff. They have, I don't know, this will be a completely different sector in India, but in the UK, it's quite a big sector. And people just run around from place to place. What the AI will certainly do is actually for them, it will do the admin, as in it will tell them, it will work out the most efficient route and, give them moments to rush from point to point. Whereas, a robot that helped you, and the AI for this, the vision technology for this, that cleaned up when somebody had been sick. The human to chat to the person whilst that's happening. Yay, that would, so, and these are often harder problems than, it's a classic thing, as soon as you actually ask what's really useful, you end up with hard technological problems. But yeah, cleaning up the shit, and I really mean the shit, as opposed to, and helping bed moving, actually, moving people in beds. There are physical things that are difficult to do. And that also hit privacy issues, and there's plenty of times when technology would be much better, but that's not what will naturally get hit first, by technology. So I think yourself, and the people around, around this virtual table, these are questions we can start to ask. We can actually do it at a small scale, but I mean, you're right about I was mentioned NGOs and stuff, but equally true about companies and stuff as well. There is real, but I think then from a university point of view, one of the things, and again, depends which departments, which bits are in, we should, and what government funding should be doing is actually looking to say, how can we, in some sense, not redress in the long-term financial, but certainly in the short term, can we do things that make it easier for the startups, the small companies as well as the big ones, that level that playing field, and that is what's happened historically with physical resources. So it's not that it's unprecedented to think like that, and it's it's not anti-democratic, it's not anti-market economics to do that, because that itself will it is sacrosanct market economics. You're not supposed to touch that, but it's not against that. It's things that happen all the time in different areas. So I think there's opportunities for us. Okay. I can.
So hi.
Hi.
Hi. That was a great talk. I'm the co-organizer with Khushboo for the IIT Bombay monthly ACM meetings. So that was an insightful talk, and I had a question about one of the things that you mentioned. So you were talking about the exploitation of sort of big data, like open data, right, and big data. And then you were speaking about what we can possibly do to make it better, like the doing it right part, the avoiding harm. So I'm curious to know your point of view on misinformation that is caused by AI, because that's not a problem that you could trace just to the big data, right? Because you'd ask essentially how you'd go about it, or how Gemini at least deals with it, is to look to Google results and check the information that the AI is giving you. But misinformation as a problem, it starts from the internet and like the web in general, right? So what's your point of view on that?
Yeah. So so one is, I worry about that like everybody. Personally, and this is more just as a personal thing that I get most worried and most upset about what I think of is when good people do bad information. So, you know, there's bad actors out there, and we know there is a digital arms race out there, you know, because they are using lots of AI to do it, and there's lots of AI being used against. We know that's happening, and that's sort of, it's an obvious problem. It's you know, the ways to deal with it are not, you know, I think when there are obviously technical ways to deal with it, we might, and thing, but I, as a personal sort of, perhaps mission is too strong a word, but I've been, you know, certainly interested in how you can help people who want to give good information provide that information, you know, using tools. So that might be things that like find counter views to your views, you know. So I know pushing those on people doesn't seem to work very well. So these things that say, you know, you're moving towards extremism, here's something that counters your view. Often that hardens people's views. I mean, it might be able to be done better, but say a journalist who, let's assume, wants to present a fact, and I've seen so many things that are inaccurate, so numerically inaccurate, but also have argument styles which are, you know, are not valid argument things. And if you assume that the people who at least, you know, so I'd like to sort of find the tools that help people to, when they've got the time to spend, it's particularly as educators, this past tools to help go to the previous question, you know, to make sure we don't generate bad things. And as I noticed that slide, which I have corrected in another deck, and I went to an old one and missed it. But that I said something was Google when it was Meta, that kind of thing. You know, I would particularly, you know, said, trying to think about tools that might help that. And also, you know, I think there's a whole open agenda there, you know, as well. So both are important, but, you know, bad actors and the good ones, you know. So.
No, got it. Thank you. That was also really insightful because, yeah, it's something that I think we all worry about, and it's to err is human. Anybody could make a mistake, even somebody who's had years of experience in the field.
Yes.
I think we'll take two more questions. Sana wants to ask. Sana, please go ahead.
Hi, Sana.
Hello. Hi, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Thank you so much for your session. I've been following you since ITF. I'm currently doing my master's in human-computer interaction from University of Nottingham. And from past couple of years, I'm very interested in sustainability and how we as a designer can bring a positive change and create a better world. So I wanted to know, how can we leverage AI to help people make sustainable choices?
Yeah. So first, actually, I'll say, and Mads, I know, told me I try to do it now to say IXDF, because he worries about another IDF being confused with. But Interaction Design Foundation is absolutely wonderful. So I do have a T-shirt for it. I've got my Walking Around Wales T-shirt. But yeah, so thanks for mentioning that, because it is such a wonderful, wonderful thing that Mads does there. Well, Mads and the whole team. Yeah, so certainly, I mean, I've again, it dates back actually to sort of .com years, and before that, my, you know, worrying about how you design intelligent systems well, and it's not easy. There's a problem, but one of the touchstones for me is often. So two things. One, understanding, just like people, that whenever we have intelligence things that are part of systems, they are by necessity not flawed is perhaps the wrong word. You know, they don't always give perfect answers. That's like, you know, that's like life. But that our goal, and I think this is a absolute standard digital human-centered design goal. Our goal is to create systems that embody AI and humans that together are robust and produce good results. So that so rather than, if one takes a technical view, so if you're an AI person, I say, no, you're not, you're from design point of view, but for an AI person, when you think about designing AI, you think about having the optimal system that produces the best possible answers, but that doesn't necessarily produce the best possible answers when embedded in a human technical system. So I go back to and asking questions. So like I mean, one of the classics I've got is sort of, I always say the rules of intelligent interface, the obvious rules of intelligent interfaces is you want, or of AI, you want the AI to be right as often as possible and to give, the best possible answers, the most useful answers. And I always say, actually, that's good, it sounds good, and it's great for demos. But actually, there's a third rule, which is much more important, which is when it goes wrong, it shouldn't mess you up. And so this is about the robustness, and you can look at existing systems and see systems that are really, really, really clever, but when they go wrong, they just, everything falls to pieces. And certainly when I'm looking at this how and designs, I mean, there's more you could go on for an extra several hours on this, but I know there isn't time. So, but how you can design these things in that way. But that's certainly the touchstone I go for. How do you make that system as a whole robust, reliable, enjoyable as well for the people involved, not how you design the AI well. And that then drives other design decisions along the way.
Okay, thank you so much.
So for the interest of time, we'll have to wrap up the session, Q&A session.
Okay.
But we have lots of questions which we have got on the chat. We will be transferring to Ellen through the email, and we will be sharing if that is fine with you.
And I'm just going to say, sorry, I will Zoom pretty much straight away because I've got the AI people here as well that I'm talking to. But yeah, thank you. It's been real joy being with you. So sorry for leaping out there afterwards. And I will try and get to those questions. And you will chase me like Billy Elwood to Pranjal until I...
Yeah, and if we get any sketch note, we will share it with you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so thank you.
Over to you, Pavani.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's welcome our next speaker, Fernando, who is a lecturer at Swansea University in the Department of Computer Science. Previously, he was a President's postdoctoral fellow at the University of Minnesota, working with Professors Dr. Lana Yarosh and Dr. C.V. Chancellor. He holds a PhD in informatics as well. Fernando's research focuses on the human-computer interaction with marginalized and vulnerable populations, using participatory design to create ethical, inclusive technologies. He teaches data visualization and has extensive experience in human-computer interaction with and user experience design. Additionally, he is dedicated to mentoring underrepresented students. He will now be speaking on the topic participatory design as a method for more ethical computer science.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Can I be allowed to share my screen?
Yeah, 1 second.
You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, it was really nice to hear Alan about designing technologies that are, taking into account the human aspect. So that's what I wanted to focus on today. And in particular, using this methodology of participatory design, which has, in my experience, in my own research, allowed me to include the human component, the human aspect in the design of socio-technical systems. So yes, so as Pavani mentioned, I completed my PhD and postdoctoral studies and research in the United States. And I recently joined Swansea University as an ACI lecturer, where I am also trying to connect with marginalized and vulnerable groups here in Swansea, Wales. I have never been to Wales before. I lived in England somewhere when I was doing a gap year teaching Spanish and web design, I remember many years ago. But this is, this is my first experience with Wales, and I am very happy to be here. Although not so very happy with the rainy weather that we have here very often, but you cannot have everything, I guess. So I use human-computer interaction methods. Informatics in the US is a separate thing from computer science. We are under the same school, but informatics is the combination, we like to call it, of computer science and social sciences, because we are more interested in looking at how technology impacts people rather than how to develop or code software. So we're interested in the social part. So we're interested in ethnography, using ethnographic methods, interviews, so that we can understand how this technology is being used by people. And in particular, I was interested in working with difficult to work with, if you will, populations, the populations that were living with stigmatizing conditions. I have worked with people living with chronic illness that was stigmatized, that is still stigmatized, like HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. People living with different sexual orientations and non-normative gender identities, and also people living with certain also stigmatized conditions like depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. And so looking at how technology impacts them, or how we can design better and more customized technology for them, it's been my area of research. And I just wanted to share very quickly that, of course, in my research, I have used methods that I believe many of you might be familiar with, such as interviews, surveys, in order for you to collect data and understand what or how you could design technology or how that technology is impacting. But participatory design has been the methodology that with these particular groups, right, when you're working with people who are from a vulnerable, marginalized group, participatory design, and in particular co-design workshops, which I believe it's something that in computer science is also used when you want to design technology that has it's going to be used by people, by humans. You need to probably sit down with them and talk to the stakeholders about what that design should look like. And so co-design workshops has allowed me to work with those particular groups. Because it's basically when you use, and if you've ever used participatory design, this is a methodology that puts the people in the center. You are designing with them rather than for them. So it's important that their voice is amplified so that we can understand how technology could be designed for them. Especially, in the case of, in my previous research working with people living with chronic illnesses, I do not necessarily are part from that group, and so I needed to approach them with sensitivity and being sure that I was not going to harm them even more with the type of research that I was doing. That was something that, in particular, with people living with HIV, I had to be very conscious about, right? And the other thing is that participatory design helped me to articulate their values, needs, and desires. What was important for them, what were the needs that they had, so that, to see if technology is the right solution for them, right? Because even technology could not be the way to address those needs and desires. And so participatory design allowed to have this sort of conversation with participants. It balanced the power dynamics among stakeholders and researchers. So it was an opportunity for have a space where I shut up and as a researcher and let the people who are going to be using that technology to speak, basically, to promote that discussion between them, rather than being researchers, the one that go and say, okay, so this is how we're going to design this technology for you, but rather let the users be the ones doing that. And so you're giving control over the design process from the very beginning. I think that it's important to include users from the very early stages of the software or the technology design process, so that they are from the very beginning a central part, an active part of what that design process should look like and what things should be considered, so that their voices are amplified from the very beginning. And this is something that I like to stress because in my experience with people living with mental health conditions, living with chronic illness, stigmatized chronic illness, most of the time applications that have been built for them have not included them from the very beginning because it was, as I will explain a little bit more in detail, it is difficult to recruit these populations from the very beginning because of their stigmatized condition. It's very difficult to find where they are or have access to them. And so sometimes technologies are developed excluding critical and important parts of the population who are going to be using the tech. And so it's important that from the very beginning, all the stakeholders, in the case of, for example, people living with HIV, it had to be healthcare workers, family members, people living with HIV, obviously, who would be in this conversation of how to design technology or how technology has impacted them. And the other important thing in my experience using participatory design is that you do not, or you avoid using complex technological jargon or knowledge that you might probably use when you're working with other computer scientists or practitioners. It avoids because you rather listen to the people who, lay people who are going to be using the technology, or rather than you talking to other professionals or people who are more, knowledgeable about computer science. So that I think that in my research has been important not to, use, complex terms so that people don't feel that they will not be able to participate in the conversation, that they will not have anything to contribute with. So I think that using, their own language, their own way of explaining how to build this technology, it was also very important, and it was something that participatory design helped a lot with. In my case, from the very beginning, it was very difficult to work with these populations in person. People living with HIV, they didn't want to reveal their identities. There was a lot of confidentiality and privacy issues involved. And so from the very beginning, and this was before COVID even, I had to do this remotely. So when COVID happened, I was very glad that I had already, found a way to actually do this remotely, do this participatory design, HCI research remotely, because when COVID happened, I had already sort of like been using this before, kind of online participatory design. And Indiana University, we created this methodology, asynchronous remote communities, or ARC method. If you want to read more about it, I have included here the titles of the papers where we describe how we use the method and the lessons learned while using the method. But basically, this is the method where you deploy a series of activities online, and it could be done on social media, for example, or on any type of online forum or online group. You have weekly activities, and it could be varied. So we, in these papers, discuss how to adapt surveys, for example, focus groups, participatory design activities, user testing of prototypes or of software, how to conduct chat-based interviews, use of other ACI data collection instrumentation like personas, the scenarios. This also allowed us to recruit from people not geographically co-located. So it was also important because we were working with people who were, from the very beginning, difficult to recruit. Sometimes people living with certain conditions, it's not something that is very common to have in the same geographical location. So we could recruit people from other countries, even from other geographic locations, to be part of the study. And so an ARC study would be something that would last around 9 weeks. Each week, participants would complete an activity, and then we would analyze the method. So this is an example, a very short example of activities. And this was done on Facebook, for example. It was a private group on Facebook where participants could participate with fake profiles, so that they could protect further their anonymity, and they would be shown each week with different things. Like, for example, the first image here on the left is a video of a prototype, and they could interact with this prototype and discuss what that was being talked about. And they could engage in discussion, or they could download templates, complete those templates using a pen or a pencil, upload them, and also engage in discussion with with other participants, or it could be scenarios, personas, vignettes. And so an example of all this you can also read in these, in particular, in this case study conducting HCI research with people living with HIV remotely. We give a lot more examples of the types of ACI data collection instruments that could be used in this aspect. What I will say of using ARC, of doing this type of co-design remotely, is that it allowed us to have more diversity of participants, right? Because we were not constrained to the same geographical location, or to bring people in person to a face-to-face setting. People participated, they had time to complete the activities for 1 week. So it was not something that they had to, sometimes we have the problem that in studies you have, in-person studies, you need everybody to come to a certain time and to a certain place. Here, they had the flexibility to do it remotely, and they could do it anytime. They could do it during the week. And we saw, and also in these papers, we discussed about the metadata of engagement and participation in terms of activity completion, delay of activity completion, etc. The other interesting thing is data triangulation, which is something that it was very interesting to see. One activity, so we could triangulate responses from various activities so that we can have a more holistic view. So you could have a research question, and then you can have a survey, and you can have a co-design activity, and you can have another activity where you can triangulate what people are saying so that you can get a more holistic response to that research question. You could use this in different platforms. We did this asynchronously using Facebook or Slack. We have also used Zoom to do it synchronously. The idea here was to have this remote type of methodology. And here on this paper is also, if you're interested, you can learn more about the lessons learned and best practices. And so one of the things here, I will just show you an example of one example of a co-design workshop that we did with Facebook and Zoom. So it was asynchronous and synchronously. And one of the things that was interesting to also notice in these types of studies is that we used speculative design approaches so that people can imagine how technology would look like, a beneficial type of technology would look like, and they remotely iterated on these ideas. And so this example here of using this type of speculative design was to make them imagine that they go to the future and people are living with HIV are being helped by technology. And so we didn't want to give a specific prompt. These were people who were, didn't have a lot of literacy in terms of technology use. We wanted this to be very open. And it was very interesting to see that in many groups of these co-design workshops, they came up with really interesting ideas about using augmented reality, of using robots that would provide them with the different resources and information that they needed. They participated in affinity diagramming using a virtual board where we could identify with participants, the different categories of features, functionality that this technology would have. We designed prototypes with UX designers. So this was a series of workshops that happened in the case of asynchronous. In the asynchronous platform on Facebook, it was, I think, 9 weeks. And we had also in Zoom a series of, it was bi-weekly sessions. And so in the first session was about idea generation. And then the second session, UX designers took the ideas from the first session and they would recreate what participants had created via their discussion and via their drawings. And we would show storyboard. They would give feedback about that storyboard. And we would further use certain tools, like, for example, the envisioning cards promoted by Batya Friedman, who is the pioneer of value-sensitive design, which is something also that I really like to use when working with this type of populations. where we would make them talk more about sensitive issues regarding their condition. Like in this case, we wanted them to talk more about how disclosure problems could be addressed with technology that they were thinking of, like needing or social support. And so at the end, we created sketches with them about technology that was, you could say that it's speculative technology in the sense that it's a little bit utopian. For example, here, they imagined this having a microchip that would disclose that the person is living with HIV and send that to a smartphone app, or it could be virtual augmented reality glasses where they could interact with other people without actually voicing that they are having or living with a stigmatized condition. And so across groups, they had different ideas, but one of the things that was common in all these groups is that they didn't want to disclose face-to-face directly to people that they are living or that they need support for a stigmatized condition, but they wanted technology to mediate that disclosure. And they gave a lot of other information about the features and functionality. And so we, based on that, the co-design, we developed an app, which we are testing right now about a mediated disclosure, where people are co-located. They disclose the type of support that they need at that moment, which is something that participants needed to have. And so the idea here is that, yes, it was sort of like a discussion of utopic or utopian technology, but you can land that down into something that is actually something that you can develop and test. Which is what we're doing. So the idea is to foreground those values, what is important to them, and then try that to build it into something more feasible. And here I just wanted to show that, that's in the case of participatory design, doing it online, my experience, and I wanted to just highlight the use of speculative design and then, landing it down to something that is actually feasible. But I also wanted to mention something that we are trying to improve right now. And it's in in-person participatory design, you have this materiality aspect that is it's beneficial when people can interact with objects in a co-design workshop. We have tried to emulate this in using art, doing it remotely, but this is something obviously that needs to be improved because we have noticed that with these populations, and this is a workshop with, I think it's transgender or gender non-conforming youth, where they could, with materials, talk about, different aspects. They could talk about how they wanted to be connected with other users using this particular prototype, what the role of different users would be in those platforms, which is something that we couldn't do in interviews. It was only when we got to the co-design part where they started, interacting with materials, the Legos in this case, that they started talking about this more freely. Talking about sensitive issues like body, image, and things like that, that for this population, it was particularly sensitive. It was something that it was much more easily done when they were using this type of materials in co-design workshops. So trying to emulate this with in an online environment, it would be something.
Prof, we are actually running behind on time.
And yeah, so this is the last thing that I wanted to highlight, that it would be really great if we could, I'm thinking with virtual reality probably, or augmented reality, try to replicate that sort of materiality aspect in co-design workshops. I think yep, if you have any questions. Yeah, I have to leave soon also.
So we'll open the floor for a few questions. We have any questions?
Can I ask Khushboo?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so very interesting and very insightful session. I just wanted to ask that, so participatory approach is a very interesting approach where we involve the users while we are designing up something. So how do you deal when you are actually working on some sensitive issues, or when you're working with the users who are differently able? So let's say when you're working with autistic kids, or when you're working in an area or a domain of, carcinogenic patients and things like that.
Yeah, one of the first things is that, I would suggest, making it very clear from the very beginning when they consent to be part of a study what they are going to be doing, right? One thing that I has worked with in my research in the past is to just let them know that they are not obliged to complete any activity. It's completely voluntary, and that they have control over what they share with the rest of the group, right? And at the end, you know, if you end up publishing research, they will also have the chance to look at that and see if you know, if they have they don't have any issue with the way that we are replicating or disseminating knowledge. So it's, you know, in some, I think it's to be very respectful from the very beginning, and so that they know that they have the flexibility to not talk about certain topics during a workshop, not participate in certain activities, always have flexibility to do that. And that has to be communicated in a consent form. One thing that I want to also mention is that when we were recruiting participants from vulnerable groups, we had to first act as gatekeepers, people who were protecting those communities. So we could be, for example, administrators of, I don't know, of online groups, like on Facebook groups. They wanted to see these consent forms. They wanted to see if we had gotten approval, ethical approval from the university, because, you know, with these types of groups, confidentiality and privacy is important. So yeah, ask them first, and not, you know, when they come to a workshop or if they participate in an activity, they feel uncomfortable. So set those rules of conduct, if you will, from the very beginning. That would be my advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you, so yeah, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask that if you have any other questions, you can certainly write me. You can ask Pranjal for my email address. I will also probably put my webpage address on the chat window so that you can there look at other examples and also my contact information. And I'll share that on the screen because I actually, yeah, may have to leave right now because I have this other commitment at 2 p.m.
Is there time? Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I have two actually. One is very simple. You have written participatory PD as a method for more ethical CS, computer science. Like, why more ethical? Is it because, you know, users' involvement here is more than any other studies like interviews or contextual inquiry or ethnographic studies? I mean, are there any other reasons?
So I was, yeah, so the idea was to make, if that technology is going to impact people, to make sure that that people is being made part of the way that technology is designed from the very beginning. So the ethical part comes to, and I had this last slide that, for example, I think that Alan also mentioned that, you know, if you are going to create technology that could have a potentially negative impact, that you are trying to get the people who might be affected by that negative impact to be part of the discussion from the very beginning, and not, you know, designing the technology, deploying the technology, and then realizing, oh, you know, this group of people is being affected negatively. And so I think that participatory design, making people participate from the very beginning, is a way to also raise any issues with any ethical problems that might arise from the use of a socio-technical technology.
Okay, great. Thank you. Second question is about, of course, you have conducted PD, physical and remote, both this thing. How do you address the differences amongst, you know, the participants? So you are designing with them. So there would be some kind of differences among the participants, right? So have you come across any such instances that participants don't agree on the design or something like that? Yeah. Yes,
of course. That is something that happens very commonly when you have, you know, a certain number of people sitting on a table deciding on what is the best solution. What we have done is, whenever that happens, is we try to make them work on a prototype, to make them work on something that is collaboratively done. So it could be an affinity diagramming where they all their ideas are taken into account and they are being put as part of something that they can then try to see how that could be integrated. So, or to create a prototype that is physical where they put their ideas and somehow they adjust it so that they can be considered. So I think that when their ideas is being taken into account and there's a physical outcome or a physical thing that they can see, an affinity diagram or a prototype, they're willing to deliberate. They're willing to, okay, so this is something that, you know, we could probably integrate, but in a different way, or this other idea could be combined with this other idea. So it's always about this sort of like conflict resolution, trying to give importance to the idea of someone and make it visible so that they know that their idea is being taken into account, and then have a conversation where, you know, we could combine, we could, you know, have a conversation, even if that is something that could be a problem for another stakeholder. So yeah, so always have something which is visible so that they know that their idea is being taken into account, and then have a discussion about how to deliberate with any differences.
Yeah.
So
one thing that has worked is that if you show that a particular thing is negative or is going to impact negatively a certain group, that is something that, you know, generally people are, oh yeah, you're right, you know. So just you need to have this discussion of, you know, what is best for the goal of that technology that will not cause any ethical issue.
Yeah, and it might be, I don't know, I'm just asking, I've just read I haven't conducted any participatory design. I have read somewhere that, you know, these kind of co-design, participatory design might be very, you know, useful in the, you know, AI, when, you know, we are talking about personalizing any kind of, you know, technology or something like that. So this has a lot of community knowledge and tacit knowledge and all that. So it might have as well help in, you know, new technology trends or things like that.
Yeah, and if there's confrontation, that's also very important to note, because that there's something there. You know, it might be a problem, it might be an issue that your technology has to, you know, be aware of. If they have already disagreements, that's important to pay attention to. That's very valuable also to. Okay, it was very nice being here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Really, I'm learning a lot with everybody here. Yeah, if you have any other questions or anything, just reach out. I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you so much, and nice meeting with the rest of the.
Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you, Fernando. Yeah. So thank you to both the speakers, and thank you for everyone to stay with us in this online seminar. And I believe there are lots of questions which you want to ask to the speakers. Please put down in the chat box, and we will transfer them to our speakers, and we will try bringing back the answers from them. But before we move on to the next segment of our conversation, I would like to invite Manisha to speak about HCIPAI. And also, Pavani, can you start sharing the slide of hers first? So she is the Director for Educational Initiative in HCIPAI.
Yeah, thank you. Can I jump in, Pranjal?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we've first of all, thank you for this event, and the speakers have really, in a way, spooked and probed so many intersections and questions around technology, whether it's Gen AI or AI, or even how to conduct research. And I definitely don't want to be a clog in this experience, but I'd just like to share what we are trying to do with educational initiatives in this organization of HCIPAI, which is, like my co-director said, is a community. And this educational initiative is very nascent. What I'd like to share is we are bringing up a very well curated list of institutions with programs that are pertaining or in the purview of HCI, which are design facing. So you all know there's interaction design, and there's UX, and there's humanizing technology, but we've also included engineering facing interesting interdisciplinary programs, maybe digital society and so on and so forth. or where, HCI is a subject, the aim being that the students can make a very informed choice on where they want to spend their next 2 years or 4 years or do their PhD. So that's one. We will upload it and it will be available on our website shortly. The second thing is we would like as the association to trust and increase such programs in educational institutes. And, we can leverage so much talent in the organizational community to probably be not hands-on, but an advisory into curriculum constructs for such programs. The third part is, like I mentioned, we are in the nascent stage and there's so much educational opportunities around. I mean, not looking at Coursera or Udemy, but also, executive education. Everybody and his uncle, if I can use that, is now teaching. However, we would like to hear from you what are some programs that you'd like from us, and we can see whether we can partner with your institution or with professionals and companies to be able to roll out that. And the last but not the least, we are also looking as an association to develop a community of HCI educators. So I will send in one of the intents very shortly on an email. But let me thank the organizers for giving me this little bit of time. I also need to log in into some other event, but please continue this wonderful experience and I will come back to the recording later. Thank you so much. Pranjal, over to you.
Thank you so much for sharing the initiative, what we have. And yes, keep an eye on the email group, which we have, Google group. Nitya, if you could find the link so that people could join who have not joined the Google group on the Zoom chat, it would be better.
Yeah, I'll just put it in the chat.
Now let's move on to the next section. But before that, just wanted to remind, we hope that the audience is doing the sketch note. If you have some sort of sketch note, please start sharing on the Zoom chat. Saikat, if you have something putting you cherry picking on you, if you have something, put it on the chat. It would be lovely to see something. Don't worry about how it comes out. Some sort of drawing, whether it is an abstract thought, that is also good enough for us. Now, I would like to invite Khushboo to introduce our third speaker, and also wanted to tell that the conversation with Nirmesh, our third speaker, will be a little bit different format. But first, over to you, Khushboo, to introduce him.
So Nirmesh is our third speaker. He is a founder of Bandis Technos Private Limited. He is a data privacy enthusiast and founder of a startup dedicated to providing data protection and compliance solutions for India's DPDP 2023 laws. His mission is to help businesses and consumers safeguard personal and confidential data with innovative products like a consent management platform, Audit Shield for data governance, and a virtual DPU service. So like the first question, hello Nirmesh.
Yeah, hi Khushboo, and thanks a lot, Khushboo and Pranjal, for giving me an opportunity to speak here.
Yeah.
So the conversation with Nirmesh would be with the questions, and he will be answering. And if you want to chip into any of the conversation, what we are going to have right now, please write or raise your hand. We will ask you to come on board and ask. First, we will go with the set of questions what we have already. Over to you, Khushboo.
Yeah, so like the first question which came to my mind first is, what is DPDP law, DPDP 2023 law? Could you brief us about that?
Thank you, Khushboo. Well, yeah, that is very important. But before that, for the audience sake, the previous two speakers were academicians and I'm an entrepreneur. And that is the reason why you find the difference out there. Instead of displaying a PPT and teaching something, I'm more into talking and talking and talking. So the mode might be different. Now, in my introduction, it is all about data privacy and the data solutions. So it is important that we understand what is data privacy. The DPDP law is a law which was passed in India last year, August 2023. I don't know how many audience have heard of it, but Pranjal, will you mind if I make it a bit interactive and I ask those who have not heard for DPDP can write no in the chat box so that I'm aware that how many people have not heard about DPDP. So those who don't know anything about DPDP, can they please write no in the chat box so that I'm aware? Okay, we have 1, 2, okay, 3, 4. Okay, fine. So there are few people. If in case I would have found that more than 90% know it, then perhaps there is no point in going to it. But okay, let's define what it is all about. So DPDP law is Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So Digital Personal Data Protection Act, and before we talk about this Digital Personal Data Protection Act, do we know what is personal data? I mean, there's something called PII data, personally identifiable information. So anyone in the audience who don't know what is PII and he want me to define and explain, please write a no in the chat box and let me take a look. So there are 50 plus people, and it's my attempt to make it interactive. If by chance, okay, so we have 1 or 2 putting up. See, it's around 2 to 3 hours program, and I'm the last speaker, so there's a possibility that people would have gone lethargic, and this is my attempt to make them active. Okay, coming back to DPDP and then PII information. Any information which is able to identify you personally, whether it is your mobile number, whether it is your Aadhaar card, whether it is your bank account number, or it is your address, home address, all these information which pertains to you and which can identify you is called PII data. So PII data is the data which can identify you, and we are calling it as a personal data. So nowadays, a lot of personal data is digital. Around 15-20 years back, the personal data was more of a manual than digital. So the personal data was in records, in files, on paper, but now 90% of the time the data is digital, so it can easily be picked up from the databases or from the file system, and so there is a lot of chance of stealing personal data and causing damage to the people to whom the data belongs. Okay, now this DPDP law, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, passed in August last year, intends to protect your personal data. Now, how can it protect your personal data and why your personal data is in danger? Let me give you an example. Like, if you go to an insurance company to take some insurance, you will have to give your information. You might have to give your PAN or Aadhaar details or the bank details. Or if you go to a banking sector or any financial institution, or even if it is to any non-financial institution, let's talk about healthcare. So if you go to a hospital, you admit a patient, you give your phone number, and your phone number is PII information, personal information. All these, okay, let's keep on talking about hospital example. Okay, so all your information gets gathered, they keep your information, they treat your patient. Your patient once gets treated and is okay, comes back to home, but the data still remains there. Your personal data still remains in the database of the hospital, and that can be misused by the pharmaceutical companies. They can approach you to sell their things. There can be further other misuses. So protection of that data which is lying with these companies is what is iterated in DPDP law. That is the DPDP law. I hope that explains. Khushboo.
Yes, Nirmesh. So I would go ahead with the other question. What is exactly there for students in the field of data privacy?
Okay, before I talk about what is there for the students, a bit of more detail is required on data privacy. I just gave the definition that the data need to be saved, but then how it is going to be saved, it is to be understood before you understand what is there for the students in this particular field. Okay. So let me come back to the example which I was talking about, the hospital example. So once you admit your patient, you give all the information, the phone number, the Aadhaar card number, or whatever it is, and that saves into the database of the hospital. Now, under this law, DPDP law, it is mandatory for the hospital to give you a notice, a notification which tells you for what purpose they are taking your data, who is going to access your data within the hospital, which department, will the OPD will be using, or will the pathology will be using, all that. Then third is that till what duration the data will be stored in the database. So if my patient goes out of the hospital, the data should be destroyed. And then the fourth is they should also take your permission whether they can share your personal data with the third party or they cannot. So you will have the option to opt in or opt out. Now that sort of notification is to be given by the hospital to you when you are admitting your patient, and committing to those things which are given in the notification, tracking your consent properly is something which is mandatory in the law. And what I talked about is all about consent. So this is taking your consent and storing the consent. So apart from consent, the data breach also comes in the data protection law. Now data should be saved, it should not be get stolen. So safety of the data and authorization of the data, who can access and who cannot access, is all which comes under DPDP law. Then how can students make a foray into it? First of all, let's find out what are the job opportunities, what are the scope of human resources in this particular field. There is something called a data protection officer, and this is in very high demand all over the globe. I talked about DPDP law, which pertains to India only, but a similar law in Europe was passed in 2018. Any audience who is aware of this data privacy law which is used in Europe, can you please type in the chat what data privacy law is there prevalent in Europe? And I won't give you much time to Google out. If you don't put up in next 30 seconds, I am answering you. DDPR, no, you Googled it wrong. Yeah, GDPR, Lavanya was fast
I
in
didn't
Googling
Google.
up.
No, I didn't Google.
Okay.
I'll Google now.
Okay, so let's come back to GDPR. GDPR is the privacy law in Europe. Okay, and similar to what DPDP law is in India. And in US, you have several laws. You have California law, you have HIPAA for health compliance, you have FCPA for financial institutions, you have for children. So there are several laws in US, similar data privacy laws. We were talking about what type of positions are available in this field. Data protection officer is a very important position who is overall responsible for the data privacy of the organization. Every organization in Europe need to register to the regulatory body with the name of the data privacy officer, and similar will happen in India. Now the law was passed last year, but this year the data protection board is coming up. So every organization will have to register their the name and the context of their data protection officer to the regulatory body in India. Now, data protection officer is a very important post, and under this, there are several other data privacy officers. There are consent managers who are responsible for taking consent. There are data auditors who analyze the data, audit the data, decide what should be the way to go forward, the policies to be formed. There are data architects. Then there are data governance officers. So all these are the positions which are under the data protection officer, and data protection officer holds the key and leads the data privacy team of an organization. Okay. Now, Khushboo, your question was what is there for the students? Well, if you want to step into this field and you want to make a career for one of these positions which I talked about, you need to have a some education in the data privacy or cybersecurity field. So if you have some BTech degree with even with simple computer science or with add-on on cybersecurity, that can help you out. Then second thing is you should have some certification which is globally recognized if in case you are targeting for the European and US laws. But if you want to start with the Indian laws, then you need to be certified as a DCDPO from DHCI. DHCI is a body in Noida, in NCR region. They certify the data protection officers. So that type of certification is an add-on to your career. And then you need to have some sort of experience in the field of cybersecurity. So a bit of experience, a bit of certification and degree, and that is where you can land up into a good position in data privacy field. Over to you, Khushboo.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was like pretty amazing to know about. I didn't knew like we could get these positions with these certifications. I would also like to point out, like in the previous question, you mentioned about consent. So, like, what is consent system and how is it to be used?
Okay, well, I gave an example of hospital. I gave an example wherein you are taking your patient and admitting to the hospital. Then I said that when you are submitting your data, it is essential for the hospital to give you a notification. Now, notification is first step of consent management system. The consent management system, the CMS, starts right from step 1 is giving notification. Notification can be online, you opt in or you opt out of various notices given out there. Okay, accordingly, the record of consent will be taken. So once you tick all the check boxes and you submit the button, then your consent is taken and consent is recorded in the consent management system. Now it is the job of this consent management system to keep track. If you have said no to the sharing of data with the third party, then your data should not get shared. So the mechanism, the consent system should be such that it encrypts your data and it tracks your consent along with the data, saying that, okay, when a third party request comes to the consent system requesting for the data, the consent system itself can deny because you had not given the consent. However, since you gave the consent that the doctors or the OPDs can access your data, therefore, when the request to the consent system comes from the from, let's say, pathology or from the operation theater or whatever mechanism they have, then that particular request is allowed depending on the type of consent you have given. This whole mechanism, Khushboo, is consent management system.
So what happens in case these consent management system doesn't work according to the like the government rules, and what are the penalties that happen?
First of all, this is presently not happening in India. Okay, none of the hospitals or the insurance companies or the banking companies are taking consent. Nobody is taking consent. Okay, but they are supposed to, as the law has been passed. However, because the Data Protection Board has not come into effect, which will come after 4th June, after the election, when the government will be there and it will be taking the steps, perhaps then the Data Protection Board will be commissioned, and then the new policies will be defined, and then perhaps it will become mandatory, and maybe in less than a years of time, you will see the implementation across India. I'm expecting and I'm hopeful that this will be implemented in phases across India. So the question is on penalties. So if these things are not followed well, government has defined huge penalties. In DPDP law, if the data, if your personal data gets stolen, then the maximum penalty which the Data Protection Board can put up is as huge as 250 crores. 250 crores of penalty, I mean, that's a huge, the company itself can go totally finish up if that huge penalty goes. However, that is the maximum limit, something lesser, depending on various facts and figures the Data Protection Board can put up. But that is for the breach of data. If there is no breach of data and there is some authorization related issues, then the penalty, the maximum limit of the penalty is to the tune of 150 crores. If in case the data pertaining to children is misused and it is found and it is proven, then the penalty can go till 200 crores. Any other different penalty other than these, the maximum limit is 50 crores. So there are various other t-shirt sizes of the penalties stated by the government in the DPDP law. That's how it goes.
So I would like to
Yes.
chip in to wrap up. Ask last question, Nirmesh, from you. Do you have any design interaction which we could, as a designer, could understand how this consent management work? Do you have which could enable us as a design interaction how to enable these consent management?
Sure. So I will encourage people to go to the website. I'm typing it out here, and there itself you have links wherein you can click and simulation of the consent management system can be seen. So you will be able to log in to the consent management system by giving your email ID and phone number. It will send an OTP to your email, and then you can log in and then take a look at what are the options available in the consent management system. Maybe I will be sharing the link with Pranjal, and he can then circulate it to the audience later on. But I encourage you to go and take a look at how that works.
So
one of our participants, Kirisha, has asked a question. What is the process to raise a flag if there is a consent? If there is a consent which is being forced?
So you are saying consent is forced. Okay. So that means that the person did not want to give the consent. However, they have falsely taken consent. Grisha, is my understanding correct that the consent has been taken? However, there was no consent coming up. Type yes if my understanding is correct, Grisha.
Your assumption is correct.
Grisha is not there? Okay. Well, so if a false consent is taken, then, if a false consent is taken, it is recorded and the organization is processing it, then there are penalties. See, first of all, it is to the person who has found that his consent has been falsely taken to complain to the Data Protection Board. So he will have to make a complaint to the Data Protection Board, and then the Data Protection Board can penalize the organization. That provision is there in DPDP law. But it differ a bit from this law to that law. If we just compare it to the European law, in Europe, if a false consent is taken and you complain it to the Data Protection Board, apart from putting up a penalty on the organization, there is certain compensation also given to you, which is missing in Indian law. So there is a difference between Indian privacy law and the European privacy law. They not only talk about penalty on the organization, but they also compensate the data subjects whose personal data is misused. Unfortunately, in the India's law is silent on this. I hope that the Data Protection Board will bring out something on this, but that's how it goes. So this is
Nirmesh, I had a quick question here. It's based on what Girisha was asking. So what she was, I think, probably asking is forced consent, right? What is forced consent is, if you don't proceed, I will not let you use the service, right? Like, for example, if there is a checkbox that says marketing communication, and if I don't select marketing communication, they don't let you register there or use the service.
Correct.
Yes.
So there are two categories. Thanks, Rohan, for explaining it. Thank you. So there are two categories in notification. As I said, that consent starts from the notification. There are certain clauses mentioned in the notification. So within those clauses, there are certain mandatory clauses and certain optional clauses. Optional clauses, as the name indicates, you can always opt out of. There are certain mandatory clauses which you have to opt in. Now, look at this. If you are there to take insurance services, obviously you know that you need to give your bank account details, as you will be giving the premium also, you will be getting the money also at the end of the scheme. So you need the bank account details. Now, in this example, I mean, if you say that you don't want to give the bank account details, it means you don't want to have any transactions, then you don't want to take returns from that particular scheme in which you are applying, then perhaps you are not taking services. So if you don't want to take those services, there is no point in going to the consent portal and choosing anything. You will just say goodbye and tata, and you will move out of it. So mandatory portion is something which you have to do. If you are saying it is forced, then you don't take the service and move out. But the mandatory portion you have to do, and then optional portion you have the option to say yes or no. That is the way it goes.
Is it optional? But is it like, how do you decide something is
Rohan?
forced?
Okay,
Yeah.
how do I decide?
Sorry.
Very simple. Yeah.
Nirmesh, sorry. Can we take the conversation later?
Sure.
So sorry for this. As we are overshooting the time and we are behind the schedule. So just to wrap up everything, to all the three speakers, and we are very grateful for Nirmesh to share the data privacy. So today's conversation from all the three speakers, we started talking about the different challenges with AI and how AI boom has coming, and there are still challenges and ethical problem which we can see. So in a second, speaker talked about the way we could counter them, and lastly, Nirmesh talked about the specific issue of data privacy and how we should think about this data privacy. So today at large, we have got an overview of different ethical challenges and the challenges in front of us to solve. And from Fernando, we got a methodology that this could be one of the way to understand the challenges. I would love to thank all the speakers to come out, and we are very grateful to give us a lot of thinking points to work on. Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Sanskar to handle the next set of presentation. So please don't go away. Now we will get to hear people from VIT Vellore, IndiaHCI, to talk about more initiative what IndiaHCI and HCIPAI are doing. Over to you, Sanskar.
Hello everyone, this is Sanskar, a third year chemical engineering student at IIT Guwahati. And here's what next you can expect. We will have an introduction to VIT Vellore, who will launch the website and talk about the symposium announcement. Now, I would like to welcome Professor Vaidyanathan Ramaswamy, Dean of VIT School of Design, with over 25 years of experience in communication design. Sir excels in creating digital solutions and managing large cross-functional teams across various locations. He is skilled in designing for digital, print, broadcast, and space mediums, and is known for the excellent team building and communication skills. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sanskar. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Professor Vaidyanathan. Presently, I'm the Dean of Vellore Institute of Technology, VIT School of Design, shortly known as VSign. I'm very happy to share with you that HCI Professional Association of India, HCIPAI, and Vellore Institute of Technology, popularly known as VIT, situated in Vellore in Tamil Nadu, South India, are collaborating to conduct a two-day symposium. This symposium is the first of its kind to be hosted by the VIT School of Design, VSign, VIT Vellore, in association with HCI Professional Association of India. A brief overview of VIT. VIT has 4 campuses across India. Namely, the first campus was set up in Vellore, then subsequently in Chennai, Amaravati, and Bhopal. About 40,000 students are studying in Vellore, and about 180,000 students across all the 4 campuses of VIT, pan-India. Vellore Institute of Technology is well known for providing quality higher education on par with international standards. The global standards set at Vellore Institute of Technology in the field of teaching and research spur us on our relentless pursuit of excellence. Vellore Institute of Technology consists of 16 schools offering over 85 programs under various disciplines, including VIT School of Design, VSign, comprising of Department of Industrial Design and Department of Multimedia and Animation. To share Few salient achievements and accolades of VIT are: it is #1 private institute for higher education in India as per National Institutional Ranking Framework. As per NIRF 2023, VIT is ranked 8th among government and private institutions in India. VIT is given A++ status by NAC Accreditation Committee, Shanghai rating as 5th to 8th ranking in India, Stanford University ranking 2023, 58 professors are among the world top 2% scientists. VIT is recognized as Institute of National Eminence. This symposium that we are going to be conducting during the month of August adopts an overarching theme of HCI for social good, mirroring the focus of IndiaHCI 2024. The two-day symposium event will be held on August 9th and 10th, 2024. This symposium will feature distinguished speakers deeply engaged in the field of human-computer interaction and allied disciplines. The primary aim of the symposium is to advance the growth and proficiency of professionals, researchers, and students across diverse disciplines associated with HCI. I invite all of you to participate in this symposium and contribute to the future of HCI. Thank you. And I look forward to meeting all of you in person on campus, and hope we will have a good constructive discussions and for taking this thoughts that come out from the symposium forward in a manner that will be helpful for both academic and the industrial communities. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Over to you, Pavani.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Next, we'd like to welcome Pallavi ma'am, the General Chair of IndiaHCI 2024, who has over 25 years of experience in data management, teaching, and research in HCI and social informatics. And she will be sharing about the paper tracks.
Yeah, you need to enable sharing.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you should have access. Just check once.
Oh, I have
In
to
the
log
bar.
in, is it?
You can just share screen. Yeah.
Otherwise,
See
it's okay.
the-
I haven't. Yeah, now I can.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's IndiaHCI website only. And even any of you can. Yeah. So, okay. There are many of the organizers here, not just me. There is Nitya. There was Yash. He ran away, I think. So, and yeah, Richa, anyways, is from IndiaHCI only. So there are many people here. So on behalf of everyone, and of course, AJ sir, the brain behind IndiaHCI 2024 and all the IndiaHCI. So on behalf of everyone, so we are IDC School of Design is hosting IndiaHCI 2024 in the month of November 7th to 9th. So these 3 days, this is immediately after the Pavani. So our website is this one. Pavani or Nitya, one of you please post it on the listing also. So our all the tracks are open, not just the papers. I'll first talk about the papers and little bit introduction to other tracks. All the tracks, we have many tracks: papers, student research consortium, student design consortium, posters and demos, courses and workshops, art track, game design, and industry track. All the tracks are open. Currently, we are focusing on advertising on the papers track. Paper track was full paper track. It was due on May 20th, but because academia, semester break, and many of the faculty members are getting holidays now, including the students. So we have shifted it to June 10th. So please, submit your papers. If you have worked on any of the research or design project or research project, please work on the paper and submit it by June 10th. So submission details and everything is given in the, everything is clearly explained here. So the, the formatting guidelines and everything is explained in the website. And this year we are publishing in Springer CCIS series. And this year, we are planning to get the proceedings before on the day, I mean, at least on the day of the conference itself. That is, we are planning to get the proceedings when the conference starts. So this is, and all the author guidelines and everything is explained here. These are our associate chairs. Okay, the paper track chairs are Dr. Nimmi Rangaswamy and Dr. Gavin Sim. So, and along with them, we have many associate chairs. Some of them are here only. So, yeah, so this is about paper track, and the submission deadline is June 10. Please submit. Along with that, we have other tracks as well. And the submission deadlines are slightly later. Like all the submission portals are open already. So like what exactly student research, everything is explained here. If you have any queries, you can, check with the track chair, respective track chairs. All the details are given here. So we have student research, we have student design, we have poster and demo, we have courses and workshops, arts track, game design, industry track. All the tracks are open. The details are already given there. And most of, out of these different tracks, there are many tracks where we are publishing in Springer. Papers, anyways, we are publishing in Springer. Along with that, student research, papers submitted to student research. They are also published in Springer, and posters and demos are published in Springer, and arts track is also published in Springer, and game design. So this is actually a new thing we started in IndiaHCI this year. So game design, of course, the game design track chairs are not here. So this is actually an open track. So this is the first time we are having this track which consists of multiple subtracks. The details are given here, and even this is publishable. Like, so it is in the publication. I mean, the short papers are going to be published in Springer proceedings. So this is about all the tracks, and also our keynote speakers. So we have finalized, HCIPAI steering committee has finalized 4 keynote speakers. One is Eric Zimmerman, he is a game designer, and Nova Ahmed, she is a researcher and faculty from Bangladesh. And Atul Manohar is from HCIPAI only, he is the committee member. And Judy Van Wiljon, she is a professor from South Africa. So we have identified 4 keynote speakers. So this is about IndiaHCI. Please submit, and most importantly, registrations. So our registrations, currently we are in super early stage. So till 15th June, we have super early deadline is 15th June. So for students, it is 5,000, and professionals, it is 9,000 with 18% GST. So please register. And any questions, you can ask any of us, organizing committee. Yeah, that is about IndiaHCI. So there are 28 people, so I'm expecting 28 papers, including mine. Yeah.
And also on the IndiaHCI website, if someone is looking how to write a paper, there is a recording conducted.
Yeah. Yes, actually, yes, that's a good point. Thanks, Pranjal. We had conducted writing a paper workshop where Ajay, Richa, and many of them have spoken. So the recording of the entire session, entire workshop is there on the website, along with the slides. You can even, go through the slides. So, yeah. We also have given mentoring for 15 authors who wanted mentorship on writing. We have given mentoring. Associate chairs, not me. Associate chairs have given mentoring to 15 authors who have submitted their initial drafts. Okay, thank you so much, and hope to see most of you during the conference. Any questions on the conference? About the conference? No.
So thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Shalaka, ma'am, who is the Director of User Experience at F1 Studios and the Director of Certification and Awards in HCIPAI.
You could go to the next slide, Pavani.
Yeah. Thanks, Pranjal. Thanks, Pavani. Am I audible and am I visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So just wanted to introduce to you the certification process certification that we are launching in the next quarter. So HCIPI, we are starting the certification process. So like Manisha ma'am mentioned earlier, there are a lot of education initiatives that India HCIPI is taken up. But there are a lot of professionals in the field of HCI who come from various backgrounds, and we've seen that there is a need for a certification process. So the details of that process we'll publish it. We're planning to start once every quarter. The certification process will consist of applicants will submit CV, their portfolio, and then also some part of self-evaluation. And then there'll be an interview panel which will conduct interviews and review the candidate. And then there is 5-year renewal that we plan to provide. And then, of course, the fees, there will be fees associated with that to cover the whole process. We will in future, maybe in future, we would have some exams or competency-based evaluation. But for now, it is all about reviewing portfolios and interviews conducted by panel. Next slide, please. So right now we are in the process of identifying the certification criteria. So there is a lot of gap in how we want to evaluate candidates in terms of not just the knowledge areas, but also what could be the rating mechanism. So next slide, please. We are inviting participation for the research that we are conducting to finalize these the evaluation criteria as well as the rating or the grading criteria. So we are inviting participation for research from various fields and academic backgrounds in HCI. So researchers, usability specialists, product strategy people, interaction designers, interface developers, people in the field of HCI education as well as academic research. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the thing is that the participants that we are inviting, we are offering free first certification to such participants. And of course, they will have the opportunity to contribute to HCI initiative. So I'll send out this, I'll paste the link for this form, which you can fill if you are interested in participating in this research. And it's open for next few days. And we'll also let you know if you've been selected for this research or as participant. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what happens is once we select you for this research, we'll ask you to conduct some self-evaluation using the criteria that we want to test as a research. Then a panel of experts will conduct an interview for various criteria that we want to test. Then there will be results, and you will also you'll be asked to fill up a feedback form. And once we launch the certificate in August, you will be able to apply for that certification free of cost because of the valuable time that you have given to us. So yeah, I'll just paste the link. That's it from me. Any questions regarding this?
I think we will share the link to the participants. Yeah.
Sure. I'm just sharing it. Yeah. Thanks. Then over to you, Pavani, Pranjal.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for staying for this session. And we are at the last bit, and this is the time where we would love to say thank you to everyone who supported this. So first, we would like to call upon MIT ID SIGCHI chapter to come and we want to show gratitude for supporting this particular event. Do we have Amogha, Nishita, Sanjog, Rucha?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Amogha Pathak, chair of the recently founded MIT ID ACM SIGCHI student chapter. Since we started in January 2024, we have organized 2 successful events that have been well received by all of our student body as well as people coming from outside campus as well. So today I would like to extend an heartfelt invitation to all of you to join us in our future events. We have some exciting events and few engaging workshops planned for everyone. To stay connected with us through social media and our website, I'll be sharing the links in the chat box, and I would love to see you all in our future events. Thank you.
Then would love to call Nitya and Khushboo.
Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone. I'm Khushboo. I'm chair for ACM SIGCHI ITB student chapter. And Nitya.
Hi, I'm the vice chair for the ACM SIGCHI IIT Bombay student chapter, and we also organize the monthly ACM meetings here at IDC School of Design, which is extended to all of IIT Bombay as well.
So far,
And
we have organized more than 55 HCIPAI ITB student chapter meetings. And
not us,
we'll,
everybody, all
yeah,
of the
all
chairs
everybody, all of
so
them.
far. Yeah, we are
Yeah.
just trying to continue down that road. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we've had students, alumni joining our events in the past, and we would hope to see not just all the attendees, but also other chapter members. And we hope that they can join the upcoming events as well. As soon as you join the HCIPAI Google group, you will get mails and information on the upcoming chapters and events in it.
So yeah, stay tuned for next month's event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Now we would like to call Shrishti SIGCHI. Is there someone, Sanjana or Ishwar is there?
Hi, I'm here. Hi, I'm Sanjana. I'm the current chapter head for SIGCHI, the Srishti chapter. And over the last year, we've had a lot of successful events and workshops that we've conducted for all the students at Srishti as well as MIT Bangalore. And we've also got a podcast that's coming up soon, so we would love it if all of you can tune in when that comes out. I'll be sharing our website link so you can come join us at Srishti SIGCHI, and we'd love to hear from all of you soon.
Perfect. Can we move to the next slide now? So now we would like to call upon all the organizing committee members who are there in this meeting to come and introduce themselves, and along with the ACM SIGCHI chapters. And so with the organizing committee, this event could not have happened if we would not have come together. So yeah, over to you, to the people we have missed for the introduction.
So hi everyone, I'm Khushboo, and me and Nitya, we together handle the logistics part of the particular event. So yeah, we both are second year interaction design students here at IIT. And as we introduced, part of ACM SIGCHI IIT student chapter. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Pavani, and along with me, Saikat and Sanskar were the ones who were handling the program and design. We are the design and program coordinators along with the web coordinators.
So Saikat, before we say the closing remarks, you would like to share the last remark. If Rohan is there, Rohan can also come and join, or otherwise, Saikat, yeah, would love to call Rohan. Saikat and everyone.
We should
think
have a
so.
picture before we close it.
Yes.
Yeah, Rohan is in. Right.
I'm there, Saikat.
Yeah, yeah.
So the intention of calling you at the everyone, because we would love to say thank you to everyone, and because we have been working day and night to bring this event off the canvas. This particular name of the canvas was suggested by Rohan and the rest of the team, and we are grateful this particular series which has kicked off this year. As Richa mentioned, this year has been exciting because in this year we have taken a lot of different initiatives to kickstart, and off the canvas is one among them. And we hope the conversation what we could have it here, the talks which we heard today will spark more conversations. And before we go, we would love to take a group photo, and I would like to invite Richa to say closing remarks and take a group photo.
So thank you, Pranjal. I mean, I'm really grateful to HCIPI and ACM SIGCHI chapter for letting us organize this event. My sincere thanks to all the speakers who gave us very thought-provoking and enriching sessions. I express my gratitude to the fantastic audience we had. We have still 26 here with us, so thanks a lot. And a big shout out to all the organizing committee members, program committee members, and the student volunteers who have really worked day and night tirelessly to make this event successful. I would also like to mention a special thanks to Pranjal Jain, who pulled up the entire event cohesively and made it happen. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anybody, but thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we have a photo now?
So whosoever is there on the call, let's switch on our video camera. And who will be taking the photo? Sanskar?
Photo will be a screenshot now.
And yes, Saikat has put up a link for the sketch note. If you have that particular link, we will be sharing it again with you all. But please do share whatever scribbling you have done on a piece of paper or anywhere. We would love to put that on our social media, share it with the speakers. Speakers will love it. And we will try sharing the questions with the speakers and get answers from them. So let's take a couple of photos. What should we say? Off, or yeah, it's very cheesy to say off.
We'll say IndiaHCI 2024.
Yes.
Yes. Go to let's follow general chair.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3. There will be a sound of click. No. Let me also take one screenshot. IndiaHCI. And general chair is expecting what, 25 papers? And yes, so you will have more of work from us.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, and I would also request all of you to please follow our social handles, because the symposium and all the updates about conference events and upcoming events will be shared there. Thank you.
And also we are putting it in IndiaHCI websites also. So like this event is also we have put it there. So yeah, please follow. And follow us on all the social media platforms. Insta, Facebook. I'm not there, but I'm just telling everyone. Yeah.
And if someone wants to collaborate, please reach out, write an email to the HCIPAI Google group. We will try to collaborate, and it need not to be an individual journey of writing a paper. It could be couple of you coming together, and collaboration is the key, and then only research happens, I believe. Yeah, so please write down if someone wants to also collaborate on the group. So that's all. It has been, I think, around more than 2.5 hours. Thank you all for staying. And we have taken photos. and we will be now looking forward to see you in the symposium.
Thank you. Thanks, Pranjal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And we could also stop the live streaming. Or sir only can do. And save the chat in your own desktop or on your own system. Fantastic. We are done with this event now.
Yes. Congratulations to all of us. All of you, rather. So, Nitya, please call sir and say that we are done, because he will be not able to switch off his phone Zoom.
Ma'am, I think she left.
अच्छा, तो सैकत तुम सर को बताओगे क्या?
हाँ
Please
हाँ
बताओ, so that he is able to go away. Okay, nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, bye-bye. Bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Pranjal.